Thank you. Good evening. Tonight is January 26th. It's the third meeting of the RSU Withdrawal Committee in Raymond. And for tonight, we have invited members of the Withdrawal Committee from the Wyndham side of the school board. So our intention here tonight is to have a conversation with you and just get a sense of where you're at. And hopefully you'll be open and honest with us as to where you are, and we'll tell you where we are, and try and have some feedback going back and forth. That's the hope. And so I am Joe Bruno. I'm the chair of this withdrawal committee, and let everybody introduce themselves.
I'm Teresa Sadak. I'm the co-chair of this committee.
I'm Keelan Case. I'm the secretary of the committee.
Louise Lester, subcommittee member.
Paul Cullinan, subcommittee member.
Jen Moore, school board member of this committee.
I'm Anna Keeney. I'm also on the subcommittee.
Mike McClellan, I live in Raymond, and I'm the state rep, actually.
Marshall Bullock, I'm on the subcommittee.
Kayla Gonzalez, subcommittee.
Roll Folsom, subcommittee.
Robert Goslin, subcommittee.
Steve Warsha, subcommittee.
And
Susan, you're up on the string.
Is it on? Oh, it's on. I'm sorry. Marge Gravoni, I'm the chair of the school board. Kate Brick, school board.
Sandy Prince, superintendent. Eric Colby, school board.
I'm Don Davis, the assistant superintendent of the RSU.
David, can we grab you mind?
Yeah.
Thank you. Going both ways.
And I see we have the two other representatives from the Raymond School Committee. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Diana Froisland, Jerry Keene Driver.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll open this up with the process we're going through. We formed this regular committee due to a petition that was passed by the voters of Raymond. We're exploring where we're going with this. We have these subcommittee members who all have an interest in the future of the RSU and Raymond students. And maybe you could start by telling us where you are on the new funding formula.
Okay, as you know, it's been a long process. We started in September. It's actually going to be over 6 months. That's how long the process takes. We've had the cost-sharing committee, which consisted of two of the representatives from Wyndham and two of the representatives from Raymond, Dawn, Sandy, and of course myself ex officio. It was reviewed. We did come up with what we felt would be equitable. It's on. We posted. It's on the website, right? It has been on the website. I don't have it with me. The plan, and is there anybody here who has not seen it?
Well, I mean, you know,
What's
this is
proposed?
being broadcast to a lot of people in Raymond, so, and I'm not sure they're aware of it, so.
It should have gone out. Also,
You want me to take over?
Jim, don't you
Yeah.
have it at the last meeting? I think you read it to them.
Yeah, everybody's seen it.
Okay, but so if you have it, you can read it.
Yeah, we have it, but if you could tell the public.
Yeah, essentially, as we looked at things, there's a couple of ways to look at these formulas. One was the way that was actually devised when the RPC met and actually created the formula that goes between the two communities, and that one was a look-see back 3 years on local additional, and those for both the town of Raymond and Wyndham were averaged, and then the percentages, which are widely known, came to pass, which is 45% in Raymond and 55% in Wyndham. I want to be clear that that's on the local additional and adult ed only, so we're not talking about the $41 million budget. We're talking about just under $4 million for those two matters. In terms of the work that was done through this, the committee looked at the EPS model in terms of how we would be able to easily communicate to the public why the methodology would change. And essentially you can look at wealth or valuation which is the capacity to pay. So you look at the community valuations, or you could look at pupils. In this particular case, we broke down the funding formula itself to come out with essentially a plan that looks like under valuation, if you go to the funding formula, EPS, you will see on an annual basis that they break down the values of the communities, and Wyndham is roughly, using the number, 2/3, and Raymond 1. So the thing came out more specifically at a 64-36, which is the recommendation that is going forth, but that would be phased in over 3 years. I don't have that data in front of me, but the phase-in is actually in the motion that the board took and voted upon recently.
Thank you.
Excuse me, it's total 9% and it's 3%. It's a 3% shift each year. Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Yeah, Caitlin?
Can you explain the process from getting from where you are now, which is what we want it to be, to having it approved? The budget change, right? Because doesn't it still need?
yes.
There's a couple of, first of all, there has to be a public hearing, and the board's voted on that date. So there will be a public hearing that will take place on the...
February 11th.
Thank you, February 11th, followed by what is basically very similar to what the budget vote looks like, which is a raise your hand vote. So both communities would go to that. Thank you very much. Both communities would go to that particular meeting, and you would have an opportunity in the beginning of the meeting to hear a little bit about how we got to where we are, and then you'll be able to vote on that. And that is March 18th, I believe?
Yes.
Yes, March 18th. Thank you, Kate.
And sorry, my follow-up question to that is the board or some group of the board actively working to educate voters and members of the community to support that, since that is your recommendation?
Yes, I actually think it's a hallmark of the district that much communication goes out. Actually, Kate is the person that creates the infomercials that we use, and there's lots of data that can be found on the website. And additionally, we certainly intend to communicate more often than not relative to the topic.
Yeah, there are ads that will be going into the Wyndham Eagle because it gets delivered to everybody's mailbox. The Lakes region, Dawn has put together a video that has been sent, I think, up to here, and we have one in our town. There is stuff on the website that will links you back to the cost-sharing formula itself, the dates, all the pertinent information that people need. The other thing that Kate is also has offered to work on is another infographic, because we want to make sure that everybody is aware that even though you folks in Raymond have voted on the withdrawal petition and you are investigating it now, we don't want people to have the idea in their head that this is actually a moot point to do that. So we're trying to also get the information out there that, if it's decided that Raymond does not go forward with the withdrawal vote, or it gets voted down, that, it's still important that everybody takes a look at the new proposed cost-sharing formula.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Maurice?
I just want to be clear, that means that all Raymond residents that are voters will be able to vote on this as well as Wyndham.
That's correct. Registered voters.
So having just left the town clerk's office, they have to be a registered voter if they want to vote on this.
That's correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Marshall?
Very briefly, Don, how do we get from 39,600,000 to 3.7 million? I'm sorry, 39,600,000 to 3.7 million. Where's the?
Well, first of all, I think you have the wrong, let's be accurate with the budget numbers.
39.6 is your budget.
No, it's over 40 million.
All right, we'll change that.
May I come up there and just put my stuff up?
He even said that we're gonna need a table for Dawn.
Need a bigger table.
I have some material, I wasn't sure.
Steve, do you want to come over here?
No, I'm okay.
Sure.
I'll stay at the kids' table.
While you're doing that, are we on the 3-year look back for any changes? Is it a 3-year average?
For the go forward,
Right.
the go forward proposal is a 3-year. It's a phase-in for 3 years.
So this 36%
Is in
will not really be effective in total or in actuality until 2021.
No, 2018.
2018.
But there's a 3-year look back.
No,
No.
no.
3-year.
It's a
It'd be
phase,
2015.
just to get, instead of to go directly to 3664, it's to take it in increments.
When you determine our costs, that's not on a 3-year average. That's a snapshot number.
It's not on a 3-year average. What I said earlier was in the very beginning, when the community formula was developed, that was a 3-year look back on local additional costs, which created the percentages 45, 55, but that was that. It was once those percentages were known, that's what's applied to the local additional.
Okay, so what it is on day X is what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And so to your other question, 41 million
Right.
versus what is a $3.7 million additional shared assessment. And I want, also want to note that the local additional adult ed, 287,000, is also part of the 55-45.
Okay.
So everything that is beyond that is covered in the state's essential programs and services funding formula that none of us have any control over. The legislature does, but we don't sitting here.
When I looked at that number on the 279, it says that we're getting 14 million, is that?
That's
About right?
Yep, that is.
So we take 14 million off the 40,000.
40 million.
Yeah, 40 million.
Yep,
I'm sorry, I'm not used to these.
yeah, yeah.
40 million is the start, 14 million comes off for EPS, and then what happens? 16 million comes off from Wyndham?
Well, there's a number of components to the essential programs and services formula. So part of that is that they look at assessed valuations, and they want communities to raise a minimum amount on the mill rate.
I understand.
So to the extent that you're not raising the mill, then you're getting no state dollars.
Right.
So that's part of the reason that Raymond has never really received much state funding, other than there is about $225,000 that comes for the debt service on Raymond Elementary School. So,
What are those numbers?
what, excuse me?
What are those numbers?
The debt service?
No. I'm trying to get in my head where we go from 40 million, we're subtracting the
Yeah.
EPS number, and now what do we subtract? And
Yeah,
now what do
I
we
have
subtract?
it. I
How do
can-
we get the 3.5?
I can read it to you, or it's on the web, and it's a document that really pretty clearly delineates it. I'm happy to read it if that's...
Oh, that's all right, if it's on the
Yeah,
web, where is
yeah.
it?
It should be under community assessment in the budget area, and if you can't find it there, I'll make sure you get it. But to answer your question, essentially, we have, when the formula was devised, the district, or the community, I should say, that had debt remained with the debt. So to the extent that RES, had debt, then that was apportioned to the Raymond community. To the extent that the high school was built in Wyndham, Wyndham had that, except part of the agreement was that to the extent that the school was built out for a larger capacity in its core, 1,100 kids, 1,300 in the core, and a large auditorium, the folks from Raymond and Wyndham agreed that what should happen is on what I call a capitation basis, the number of students from Raymond as a divisor into the total school population would dictate how much of the local-only debt would be paid. So I want to be clear that the debt that is being paid is for that agreement that was made at that time.
Okay.
So, let me continue, or do you have? Okay, I'll keep going. So at
There's
that,
a lot of curious people out there.
yeah, that's fine. So the Wyndham local debt was estimated, it is, to be $689,000. I'm using rough numbers because it. So the Raymond share for the Wyndham debt was $88,000, and the Raymond Choice assessment, which we bill in advance, if you will, and then we do the calculation at the end of the year, is $60,000. So you have your 41 million. You end up with a state subsidy and miscellaneous revenues as well. So 15.123 in state subsidy, 300,000 miscellaneous. Then you have to raise a certain amount of money in each community based in the formula. So Wyndham needs to raise the 14.3 million, you need to raise 6.7 million. That leaves 3.7 million left.
Thank you very
Yep.
much. So what we are talking about is a sliding scale from 45 to 36 on 3.7 million, which to Raymond is about $330,000.
Right, but I want to make sure the public also understands that you have additional expenses for adult education at the same sharing. So it's not 3.7, it's 3.7 plus 287, which we share, the two communities.
It's pretty much 4 million.
Yes, that's right.
Last question.
Yep.
Do you know if Raymond has any out-of-district placements?
Raymond has, I do not believe so. We have a child at the real school, which is our own internal
Right.
school, but I don't believe at this point there's any out-of-district placements.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from committee up here?
On your paper, is it 5:30 or 6:30? The newspaper says 6:30.
It hasn't been posted. You are the only people who have seen it.
Okay.
5:30 was to have questions and answers before, if you're talking the 18th.
Yeah.
It was meant to have some opportunity in advance of the actual raise your hand.
Okay.
Bob?
Another key component that has not been addressed yet is in terms of capital improvements, new schools, repairs to schools and existing facilities. I understand there has been some agreement that's been brought forth in terms of capital, and we haven't addressed any of that yet. Would you like to?
I'd be happy to. Actually, we have, and I think what the public needs to know is that there's been some misinformation out there about the facilities work that's been undertaken. The school board created a subcommittee to look at middle level education specifically. That was a group that was authorized by that board, but the board is the final arbiter or decision maker relative to anything that happens in the facilities. That group was asked to come up with their recommendations by the end of last school year, which they did. So sometime in June, they gave their recommendations to the school board. The school board has its own facilities committee, so that committee's been recently charged to look at that. So the misinformation in the public is that there was somehow going to be a middle school built in Wyndham at being paid for by both communities, which is completely inaccurate. So in terms of the discussions that took place, to get to your question, was that because there was concern amongst the members that the possibility would be that it wouldn't be very favorable for the community of Raymond to necessarily be paying for a middle school that may need to be built in Wyndham. We actually explored questions with legal attorneys to see if there was ways to create what I guess I would call exploratory referendums, which is really advisory, so that we could have gone out to the public and asked the question. There's a couple of ways to go about this endeavor, and we're going to ask you which way you like best so that we could have proceeded. In the meantime, of course, what's happened with this is that in terms of the cost-sharing formula, what's devised now is to the extent that there are major capital improvements in either community, this is the proposal, is that the community that's doing the work would be the community that pays for the work. So to the extent that Wyndham decided that they were going to have a middle school, they would be paying for the middle school. If you decided you were going to do something in Raymond that's major capital, then the expense of that would be borne by Raymond taxpayers and not by Wyndham taxpayers. And similar division of, when I talked about the capitation model of the high school where if students did go, it was devised that it would be the same notion, that to the extent that kids did still from Raymond want to go to the Wyndham Middle School, in the event that that was ever built, that model of how many, the percentages would have been applied to the local-only debt service. What's important about that is that we know that from prior application that we're not going to rank high probably forever in terms of a middle-level education in either community. So as a result of that, it would probably be all local cost as opposed to having any state involvement whatsoever, which is much different than Wyndham High School. So just as a point.
Just to follow up, is that a component of what the vote on March 18th would include?
Yes, it is.
Both cost sharing and capital?
Yes. If under state title, when you look up 20A, there's definitions for major and minor capital improvements. What was difficult about this was to the extent that I'm going to use Wyndham as the example, that there's a roof over the Wyndham Middle School. First of all, let's just say that the school's going to be renovated as opposed to replaced, and that they need to do major work. That normally wouldn't come under the definition of that. So it was kind of hard for the attorney to come up with language that said, to the extent that you're fixing a roof on Wyndham Middle School, that's going to be borne by the community of Wyndham. But that is the intent, and that's what's in the agreement, not the agreement, forgive me, the proposal.
Other questions? Teresa?
I think to back up, Don, on what you're saying on misinformation, I think, I don't think it's misinformation when the board and the information that was put out there is these were the three options, that's what they were looking at. And to me, as a taxpayer and as a selectman, that scared me big time, as far as these are the three. And I know with Katrina, and she's not here anymore, March has that, when she came to the school board chair, one of the questions that Mike Reynolds had asked her was, and not word for word, sorry, it's like, well, so you don't technically put money into a building if you're not planning on keeping it, and Katrina says correct. So that makes it even look even more like Jordan Small was going to be closed and the work that wasn't going to be done on it either. So I think just defending my own self on that's one of the things is when we're looking at those three proposals that are out there, you know, as far as the new school.
I have to interrupt. There are no proposals to build a middle school. So you have an advisory committee to the school board.
That we're going to be presented to the school board.
And the school board may have liked any or none of them.
Right.
And we were already talking about the financing, so there was misinformation in the public.
I don't think so. That's just my opinion now. That's just mine. But I think the other thing is Jordan Small, I think one of the reasons why we're here too is why not look at the buildings that we have and utilize them first? And that's one of the big costs of a new middle school is that it's huge. It really is. So why not utilize the buildings we have first and then go from there to see what you would need after that?
You said you wanted an honest discussion, and I think that an honest answer to that is that you saw with the community of Wyndham how they reacted to that proposal. So to the extent that they were or were not interested in doing so, the redistricting didn't take place. And when we say redistricting, we're not talking community lines. We're talking like if you're in Portland and you decide to move from an elementary school line of one street to the next. So that was what gave impetus to finding out what the proposals might look like in order to satisfy both communities. So I would say that the board has gone out of their way to bring what would be opportunities for the public to save money in the reorganization. One was to close Jordan Small, develop Raymond Elementary into a larger site. The third one was redistricting. They've done all they can. They need to listen to the public. So at this point, we're where we're at, which is what I think is a pretty good opportunity for either community to continue to do what they'd like to do with the building stock that they have.
But I think coming back on that is I think the board needs to take a stand and say this isn't Wyndham and Raymond anymore. This is a consolidated school unit, and these are the properties that you have. And I think the board needs to take, my personal opinion, is take a stand and say this is what we need to do.
That's a board question.
I just want to clarify something. We have clarified this at our board meetings, and I know nobody comes to our board meetings, and evidently I don't think many people watch them. We have clarified it on more than one occasion that what is going on with the middle school is not a capacity issue, it's a conditional issue. The middle school is in dire need of, it would be, our facilities director agrees, more than extensive cost to try to bring that up to. It has never been about we don't have enough room in that building for the kids that go there. When we initially looked at moving students up here, it was not the middle school. It was the primary school, and it was those kids going to RES. It kind of, I think through the fact of conversations or whatever, people watching, they misunderstood what was going on. The middle school only came into that conversation because people had questions about, well, what happens to my child when my child gets to the 4th grade? And they're ready to go on. And it's like, we can look at that, and that can be an exception, that if they wanted to, they can stay there. They don't have to come back down and go to the Manchester. They can go over onto the middle school. So it was never a matter of us taking kids from the middle school and sending them up to Jordan Small because they were overcrowded. Or we never looked at the middle school because it was overcrowded. I can't tell you, I mean, and Kate has always been very emphatic when people have even brought this up at board meetings, that it's the condition of the middle school, not the capacity to hold students.
We actually have an infographic that we can pass around too. Having watched your meeting, your 2-hour or hour and a half meeting, and taken some notes, I think some of the questions that some of you have are, what are the conditions of the buildings? And when we get back to Marge's point about the condition of the middle school, we sent out this, and it went to all of your families as well. And this was early on in the middle school discussion, where, again, there was representation from Raymond. We had Ed Gagney, Tammy, I can't remember her last name, and I should because she's so great. I'm sorry? Hamilton. And then Jen also was on the committee because we wanted a broad, we wanted everybody's opinions. We'll pass this around. This was what
We
what
actually
is
have
going
it.
on. Okay.
It's on your Google Drive.
Everybody,
That's-
it's on your
yeah.
Google Drive as well,
Yeah.
so you can access it.
Because somebody had asked the question, what's wrong
Okay,
with the buildings?
good.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize what Marge has stated, that it really never was about numbers. It really wasn't. And you can go back and look at the minutes, which are on our website, which are extensive, where we would discussed, I think we started out with 11 options, different variables, different scenarios. We were very open to all options, and it was distilled down to the 3. And by that, just to emphasize again, these are recommendations, 3 recommendations. The board has not even had a discussion about those 3 recommendations at all. We have not had one meeting where we have discussed what that committee recommended. So it's premature to even say that it's all about the middle school and we were going to build a middle school. I mean, I'm surprised my hair hasn't turned black every time I hear that because it just simply is not true. And I'm so sorry if we did not do a good enough job explaining that. As you know, it's very difficult to get information out so that people understand it. And you can never do it enough. I mean, those of you who've ever done this kind of work, you know, it's very difficult to reach everybody. But I can't stress enough that that was totally off base, totally off base. And I'm sorry if you misunderstood that.
Other question, Louise?
If the middle school is in such poor shape now, and I don't know how old it is, was it 25 years old? 40. 40?
Well, that's one piece of it. How old is the,
The other piece on there, Field Allen, I don't remember, is it on there?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
my question to you is, why wasn't the maintenance kept up on it so it isn't into the shape that it's in now?
I'll answer that.
Well, that's an assumption.
The appearance, because as a district, we take great pride in our schools. Our facilities director takes great pride in the school. We are down, we were 44th, I think, on the list for the state because the school looks good. It looks good. But if you, right, but if you're a contractor and you went in there and you saw, I mean, the windows are all, I mean, the air, I mean, we are losing energy like there was no tomorrow. And I mean, there is a lot of structural issues. A lot of it cosmetically, it looks fine if you just look at it. And it's been Band-Aided. You know, there's not much you can do to make things perfect without, you get to a point where it's finally, look at, it's got to come down and be a major.
I might be able to add to that too, which is that particular building, if you listen to the architects, and both communities have used Lyndon Keck from PDT, he will tell you that that building was not really particularly well built, and it didn't cost as much as a well-built building. So decisions were made in the community at that time not to build what we would call the highest quality building. And we have to be careful about that. We have children in those buildings. The building is safe, it's in wonderful condition, but it wasn't built at a standard that you might build if you felt you could afford more. And so the district has always had a long-term capital plan. So another answer to your question is that they went about their work to try to get 25 portables off the front yard at Wyndham High School, with the largest project in the state of Maine at the time, a $35 million high school. So you can't bite off the total size of the elephant at once. And this first start was to get the high school built so that they could look later on at middle level and other schools that needed to be done. It's hard to believe that the stock is older. I mean, when you think of the Wyndham Primary School or even Raymond Elementary School, time is passing, folks, you know what I mean? So and these things are very expensive. We feel that our physical plant probably has a value of about $250 million, and it takes a lot of money to run it. So we're doing the best we can, and we do have capital plans to try to improve things.
Any questions, Mike?
Well, one's a comment, one's a question. So you mentioned quite a while ago, and kind of went by me here, but the list for projects. And my understanding is in Augusta is the list is going to stay what the list is now. So I don't know if you are on anywhere on that list, but
We're on it, but we're way down.
yeah, my understanding like the top 20 projects have been, and some are massive. It's just hard to imagine. And my understanding is they're just going to let it flow at this point. And you may have answered this, so I'm looking, and I had seen this in the paper when this came out in the paper. So is this the effort now to kind of figure out what you're going to do for your capital improvement, or are some of these things already in the works?
Well, on an annual basis, the facilities director presents to the board's finance committee and the board a capital project list. And so, and he, as an engineer, will prioritize what he thinks needs to be done on the list, given very scarce resources to do any of the work. So we do that annually. And then to answer the question, that particular group, meaning the facilities committee of the school board, is actually holding its startup meeting tomorrow night, weather permitting. No, Wednesday night, excuse me. Wednesday night, weather permitting, to get going on looking at those proposals and trying to find out what might be best for the district.
So kind of to get back to what Louise asked, so the portables were gone a few years ago, I think, right? And I apologize. I don't
The
drive
portables
that.
from the high school?
Yeah.
Yes, they went with the renovation.
So has anything happened between that and where we're talking now, or was that you just really had to kind of take your breath and catch up a little?
No, actually, we engaged PDT, the architect, to take a physical inventory of the building so that we would get a better feel for, as Louise pointed out, you know, what building needs the most amount of work first type thing. We do have capacity issues, you've heard that. We have over 600 youngsters in Wyndham Middle School and whatnot. So it's just a matter of trying to find out what the priorities are to move forward.
I just wondering, since the high school project finished and the portables have been gone, you've been gearing up to this point.
Yeah, and in point of view, that, you know, we also took the time to make a formal application to the state, which is quite a lot of work, and we had people come to the district to look at the Wyndham Middle School in terms of its.
Is that the project Wyndham Middle School you applied for?
That was the one that was applied for and is quite low on the list. Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion.
Two. I'm assuming from comments from that area that these three issues down here are on the table and that's it? Okay. What are the populations of the three schools? JMS?
Yeah, I have enrollment, if you give me a second someplace.
I think Jordan Small has 198.
Yeah, we just got them numbers.
Yeah, I have this here.
They should be in your Google Docs, I think. Right?
Let's jump to the high school then.
High school has 1,009.
But how much of that is Raymond?
169.
169, 198, and how many in elementary school?
I'm just looking it up, sorry. It's taking me a little longer than I thought.
Oh,
This is from the 279, is that what you're looking at?
No, actually, we have an
Yeah.
enrollment report.
204.
You have that?
For
Thank you.
REF.
I don't seem to find it quickly.
Yep.
2,000, so 200.
I got that like
204.
2 weeks ago, maybe, I think, yeah.
Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah, so we're all-
Told her the shared drive would come in handy.
It's all on your drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are enough outside.
Other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Bob?
Your unanimous vote has been published in print. Have you gotten a sense or a vibe from the Wyndham residents on their taxes conceivably going up? And, or is there any, I guess, apprehension in supporting your unanimous vote?
To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't heard a word. And I'm married to the chair of the town council, too. And so.
That's why.
Probably, oh, I shouldn't have put that out, but you probably don't know that now, as the world does. But, not a word. I mean, but I think we're just at the point now where we're publishing, and I guess I would like to also make sure, because you probably get much more viewers than we get, that, you know, that everybody work towards encouraging folks to, you know, make themselves available, look up exactly what the cost sharing formula says, and to try to make both of the meetings, the first one so that they can hear the comments of everybody else, and the second one naturally is to get another full update and to be able to vote. And before the question comes up, I'm going to answer it. The reason we're doing the vote in the auditorium and not waiting, I figured it's a matter of time, waiting to go to referendum, because if we vote then it can become effective in the next budget season.
I figured that's what it was. It's scary to go by hand.
I figured I better put it out there, because at some point somebody's gonna say why.
There was a question that did come up. One of the people said, instead of going by hand, can you do a yes or no on a piece of paper at that?
Well, I think it depends on how you call the meeting, and this was called as a regular raise your hand meeting as opposed to a referendum. So this is not a budget meeting where 10% can request for a written ballot. So the way that this has been devised is a raise your hand.
Okay. No, I just had that question come up.
Louise?
I was gonna say, I think the moderator can make a decision, 2/3 vote of the people there to have a ballot.
You would certainly know more than me. I can check into that for sure, but my understanding was that there's two methodologies and there's time frames in terms of public hearing and notice, and we chose one over the other, which was non-referendum and public raise your hand. But we can certainly check that out.
Someone can make a motion from the floor to have a written ballot, and then it requires a 2/3 vote,
Okay.
and you could have a written ballot.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just speak to the communication piece just for a minute? If you have any suggestions for us about how to get the word out, particularly in Raymond, I know it's very important in Wyndham, we are all ears. This is hard work and it's complicated work. It's complicated work for people who are not as invested, or I shouldn't say invested, as aware as we are of what's going on. It's complicated, and we're trying really hard when we put out information not to have it be so that when a parent looks at it or a voter looks at it, their eyes glaze over and they're just like, I'm going to delete this because I don't get it, because this is high stakes, and we understand the importance of getting the Wyndham resident up to speed. And you know, I think we're going to do the best we can. I mean, we're not a PR operation by any means. We don't have the staff for a PR operation. But I think between the papers and our listserv and our website, and we're going to try on a weekly basis, I think. I'm not even an artist. I mean, this was a desperate act on their part for me to even put this together. But I think there will be more of those coming out that kind of drill down. Okay, this is just the first go round. Then next week maybe another drill down, and then we'll drill down again, so that, well, why is this important? Or how does this impact your taxes? I mean, the bottom line is the money. So we realize that this is very high stakes for you monetarily, and it's important work. The entire board voted unanimously for this. We're all in agreement. So if you have any suggestions at all to help us in this endeavor, please let us know.
I actually put it on my Facebook, and I just said, this will lower, I put what the ratios were, and I put the other thing is because one of my issues was paying for a new middle school, and I said this will stop Raymond from paying for a new middle school, so I kind of summed it up, and I said, please pass this on to everybody, and it's hitting a lot of shares, is what it is. What about your town? I know our Raymond page, we can put it on our Raymond page to vote. Can you put it on the town of Wyndham? So
They have a Facebook page too.
Okay.
And since we have people that we know, we can probably make that happen.
We can get Sandy to tweet.
Joe?
Eric and.
Well, I think also what you're trying to get at is getting a sense of the voters for it or against it.
Correct.
Okay. I think people, and you'll notice this from working on the select board, are very disengaged until there's a problem. I mean, a lot of people here were disengaged, now there's a problem, now they're engaged, now they're asking the questions. So I think people are disengaged, and a lot of it's not gonna come out. I mean, those who show up are the ones that are gonna know about it and care about it, and those who don't show up, it's gone right over their heads. That's basically what's gonna take place.
Steve?
Teresa earlier on alluded to something that I think is a larger issue that we haven't talked about. We've talked about some details, but I think, and this is my sense, that one of the issues here in Raymond is that Raymond as a community is not included, is not a part of, does not have decision-making capacity, and generally feels as if we are in left field when it comes to the operation of the board. We have been a consolidated union for a while, and I'm concerned that even after this amount of time, that feeling still persists. And I wonder if you could speak to that.
Sure.
And by the way, I'm not paranoid.
No. Huh? Well, I'll answer as a almost 13-year member of the school board. So I've had experience, both consolidated and not. Since 2009, there's some things that you should know that I think there's some misinformation or misperception. Ever since we've been consolidated, Raymond has always had a position on leadership on the school board. So someone was either chair or vice chair, always. So what that means is every week you have a representative that sits down with Sandy Prince and talks about the district. That has not changed. In fact, for 2 years, the chair of the school board was a Raymond resident. Recently, in the past, I don't know how long you've been at it, Jerry. Too long. At least 2 years, the finance chair, which is probably the most important committee of the whole school district, was a Raymond resident. We have never, ever, since 2009, had a vote that was along town lines. That's not how we work. It's never been Wyndham against Raymond. We've never had a vote like that, ever. So when I heard those comments, and they were concerning to me that, and Joe, you had explained the legal ramifications of why you only have 3 representatives. We don't have control over it. I mean, that's a population decision. So you have 3 based on your population. We have 6 based on ours. Now, on the face of it, it looks lopsided. And one could maybe assume that, wow, you guys, you know, the Wyndham train is going down the track and plowing through Raymond. But that, I can tell you, is not the case. This board works together. We always have. We're always respectful. So I guess I need more clarification what you mean by no representation.
I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry. What,
I was not referring to representation, I was referring to perception.
okay, well, that's,
And the perception is, I think, and I'll ask the other members of the committee and the subcommittee whether or not they agree with me, the perception is that Raymond, that the Wyndham train is going down the track right through Raymond. That's the perception.
I don't know how to change that because it's not true, and I wish I could have, I wish y'all, or somebody could give me some examples where, well, this is what happened, and you really did plow through, because I don't think that's ever been the case.
Well,
And I would be happy to hear of one. I mean,
Well-
I wouldn't be happy to hear of one, but, you know, if you have an example.
I think one problem is that there's a formula here for this issue, and there's another formula here for this issue. Population for the school board, but assessed value for the finances. And I think that's creating confusion.
But that's, I know.
If that didn't come up until there was an issue, so there wasn't.
No, but people are looking at, why is it okay here but not okay here?
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead.
Well, I watched the last broadcast that you guys got together, and my wife watched it with me. She's not a politician; she doesn't like politics. But there was a discussion about, you know, the cost, and I'm very new, so I'm looking at this. I'm trying to put my Raymond hat on as I look at this. And there was the discussion about the cost sharing formula that was should. The word should was used in 2 years. Should be could, and then there was these other 3 years. And there was a lot of concern that it should have been, it should have been, it should have been. And so my wife said, well, why wasn't it? And she said, who was the chairman of the school board? And I said, a Raymond resident. She goes, and it was the Raymond selectmen that were concerned about it? Couldn't they have communicated? Was there ever any communication between the selectmen and the Raymond chair who was setting the agenda? So there's a lot of communication issue that goes on. And that's from somebody who's not a politician.
Hang on a minute, I'm not letting the public comment yet.
Okay, sir.
All right,
I have to say, I think that we've talked a lot about budget and money and numbers, and that's great, but that's not why I'm here. I think that a lot of the perception is, as a Raymond resident, I have 4 kids, 3 of whom are in the schools already. I've got one at high school, one in middle school, and one in elementary school, and another that starts elementary school next year.
So you're busy.
Busy, and it means a lot to me. And we chose Raymond because of the community, because of the size of it, because of the location, because of the people there. And I would bet that the majority of Wyndham residents say the same thing. So I think what happened, the way I see it, Raymond residents got mad and started being more vocal when we thought our community was going away, when we were hearing, well, we have to do this because that's how it's done in Wyndham, and this has to happen because that's how it does in Wyndham, and now we're an RSU, so we all have to do the same thing. And whether or not that's true, that's what's hurting. And I think that more than budget for parents, that's what's causing us to finally say, wait a minute, can we look at this again? Can we please let us have our voice for our kids? And as much as you guys throw around numbers, not that I want to pay more, but let's be honest, eventually it's going to happen, and we're going to do what we need to do to get by, because that's what we always do. But I want to make sure that while I'm doing that, I'm getting to make those choices for my kids, and I'm getting to provide for my kids the life that I wanted for them, not the life that someone else told me I had to have.
Well said. Can I respond? Those people that had spoke to you about that concern, and I can see that, I can feel that, I think you got a good point there. But my question, and respectfully, asked them on the last time they came before the board and said, I got some concerns, because there's a time, right before every time,
no
when we never
doubt.
see anybody.
That's how I ended up here.
Well,
Because
thank you.
finally I was like, I have no idea.
Appreciate you doing that.
The hearsay is all over the place, but let's see.
But if we go forward, and I hope we do, I mean, I'm, once again, very new. I'd love to see it all stay together. It's there. We've got friends now on both sides, you know. I would love to see it, and any Wyndham people watching, participate. If there's a concern or an issue, I'm telling you, I'm just an average Joe, and I'm not even the sharpest most of the people in this room. But I'm not gonna know until somebody tells me there's an issue, and I'll tell you, I'll look at it fairly if someone takes the time to do that.
Mike? I want to go back to the question she had, but we went down the track, so is that okay? All right. You asked about how to publicize stuff. So I guess I'm kind of talking to people watching on TV tonight. I think, Sandy, you can help me out. Maybe 3 years ago, I went to the budget vote and sat in the back row. And I counted, and I think I counted about 53 people, maybe it was less, but it was about 53 people in the room, something like that. And that included you guys.
Most of them.
Included me. And I don't remember, maybe Louise was there, but I don't remember many Raymond people there. There weren't many, if any. And so it's incredible, $40 million budget. And, you know, and that, I mean, I'm from New York, and I came to Maine, and they had this thing called town meeting, and I fell in love. I love town meetings. So it's always stunned me when we get 100 people or 200 people show up to town meeting. But I'm at this meeting, and if just for a minute, I think this would be kind of interesting. See if you remember this. First thing that happened in the meeting, some older man got up. He said, "Pardon me, everybody. I've never been to a meeting before, and I don't know what to do. Can you help me?" And you guys said yes. And he said, "Well, you guys want to make a curriculum director, I think, and you were going to lose a teacher through it." I don't know if you remember this story. Keep going. All right, well, and the guy just kept saying, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And through the course of the evening, you guys helped him with process, how to do it, and he had a few people with him. And if I remember, the vote every time ended up being like 36 to 22 or something. And you know, every time he tried to make a motion to keep this teacher in the budget, it lost close. It was whatever the number, it was close. And I sat there thinking, my gosh, if this guy knew what he was doing, he could call 5 of his friends. It's all he needed, 5 people, and he could run. So that's my message to our young people. Only 50 people are going to the meeting. One thing we could do is go to the budget meeting, and wouldn't take many of us before we feel like we were impacting. So, you know, I think what you were kind of saying, everybody stays home, and we're here tonight talking like this. So.
You know, it's really sad, and we speak it frequently at meetings that are important. You know, that where is the public? You know, every week we have a meeting and we have public comment. A lot of times I don't even say it anymore because there's nobody out there. You know, I don't open and close it because there is no public there. And it's very sad. What we do is it's very expensive, and more than that, it's extremely important. We deal with all of your children. We help educate them. It's the beginning of their life. It plays such an important part. And if people have, I don't think we would get to this point, adding on to Kate's thing, if people, when they feel there's a question or a concern or anything, you have a town, be it Raymond or Wyndham, you have representatives from your town, you have the whole school board. I mean, you can get a hold of all of us. If you can't come to a meeting, you can send an email out. There are all ways and means of communicating without even leaving your house or being there that evening. And so, I guess the point I really want to make, because I've heard a couple of comments that, you know, those Wyndham folks really, the board members really don't care whether we leave or not anyway. And that's not true. That is definitely not true. I came in, like Kate's been here a long time and Jerry was here, so they're the pre and post folks. I came in right in the middle of that consolidation thing. And boy, let me tell you, that was unique. But anyway, I come in then. But I really got a feeling for the district because I was never really just a Wyndham, so I was always part of it, and I've been here since. And we value highly what people think. We value all of our students, whether they come from Wyndham or whether they come from Raymond. There has never been a time when we say, good God, I wish they'd leave, or I'm glad they're leaving. It's been a very unique and a very difficult time for all of us. I think as the years have gone by, It's been probably the slowest process I've ever gone through, but I think we're slowly, trying to bring the communities together. It's kind of, I have an analogy, and I can relate to it because I can take it all and put it all in Wyndham. It's similar to like, if I go from the campus where most of the schools are, and I go over to the Manchester School, which sits all by itself, it's a similar thing. They're like a little community because it sits by itself. Well, Wyndham has over 17,000 people in it. Raymond has, I think it's still under 5,000 people. That's a really big difference. And we totally, people may not think we do, but we totally know and understand why you would feel like, well, here's the big shark that's coming along, and I'm the minnow, and they're just going to swallow me up. And we have really bent over backwards to try to make everybody feel welcome. You can talk to the Raymond representatives. I think they feel that their voice and their opinion has always been heard, and everything they say is worthy of listening to. So there has never been in our minds an us and a them, and I just wanted, because hopefully there's more people watching me, than watching ours.
I know my wife is watching. So
okay, that's good. Here's one. So I just want people, to understand that we value this district as a whole, and that's the two communities together.
Eric, if I can reply to your comment. When I elect someone, I expect them to look out for my best interest. Okay? I elect Mike, I elect the school board people. It's not up to me once they're elected to say, here's what you ought to be looking out for. I expect them to look out for me.
I hear you.
So.
But if I was a Raymond citizen, and I had a selectman that was very concerned about a certain thing, and it was going to save money, and was very concerned, I would want him down there banging on the door. I wouldn't want him going, well, they're elected, I want to bang as my selectman.
March, to what you're saying as far as you coming in the middle of the consolidation, you're kind of coming into, I think, as the board chair on the middle of this petition thing too. You really are, because I've been banging pretty much against Katrina's door since March. I sent a letter out when this whole thing came out, and we invited her to the costs to the revitalization committee meeting, raising questions about this too. We invited her to the select board meeting, also asking questions. It's been constant questions over and over, and not once has it ever been said that no, a new school isn't. The only time she said is, oh, well, yeah, well, Wyndham, we're going to build one down in Wyndham, but Wyndham will take care of that. And I said, well, you can't say that because it hasn't been voted on. I think the thing that's frustrating is, we got our computers taken away, I think, in the elementary school because Wyndham doesn't have that. So that's one of the things. Well, wait a second, this is what Raymond is really known for. But somebody came to one of our select board meetings, I think when you guys all were there, and they said, get involved. And I have been since January, questioning all of this. And if anybody knows me, I like doing things yesterday. So I waited and asking questions. And I just feel like the answers were just not coming. I know Joe questioned the 45%, and Katrina said no, it wasn't accurate. And we never got accurate numbers. So unfortunately, Marge has come into this as the board chair. And you had said you don't ever, seeing that email, but March, and then I wrote another email in May going, what's going on, and then we see in June well, let me just finish, please. In June, when you guys voted as a board to not take action on that cost sharing plan, to me, that said a lot, because with Raymond paying as much as we are for the number of kids that we have in there, not very many, and you guys voted to hold it, I really felt like that to us was a slap in the face. I really did. And I know you guys have a lot on your plate, but that's an important thing to Raymond when you're paying that much money and not having, that many students in there. So to me, that was kind of like, okay, I'm filing this petition, is what it was. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking at. And I think with this new school, once again, it's utilize what we have first, and I know it's not going to make people happy switching back and forth. And I've been on the school board technically for 4 years before we consolidated, and Joe and I were on the consolidation board. So I'm looking at a lot of things, but just coming out of it and not asking questions. And I watch on the little webcam on my computer so I can see your guys' meetings. But I've been asking questions for a while. And every selectman meeting, I think I make a comment. People, get involved, ask questions, is what it is during every selectman comment.
After that first meeting that we had, you could ask Marge, because she felt like I jumped on it, but I wanted to find out, had you guys approached the board, how important was that? I could find no record of any, if you did to her, it was gone. So I would suggest, if we do go forward, make sure you don't just go to one person, because people could be gone tomorrow. But nobody else had record of.
But you can't do that, because it's the board chair. And I know, like, through protocol with different chairs, you know what I mean? It's kind of going, like, I don't know, kind of in the back door type way. But I just assumed, since she was the chair, that letter would get passed and conversations would get brought up. And it didn't get brought up again until I sent another letter going, what's the status of this? Right. And I have the letters. I've kept them just because I keep everything. And so really pushing us down the street on that one. And I really do believe, and I know you guys will say no, I think that this was pushed forward because of the petition being filed, putting that cost sharing out there.
Well, it would have been, she was a Raymond representative, so I didn't see that.
And in that case, I think she failed, but unfortunately for Marge literally came into this thing like, whoa, wait a second. Look at Marge sitting there, kind of coming in on it again, because you had said that you didn't see that email, and it was never brought up. So,
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
I'm just wondering, this is not very productive.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's something we might do that we could turn into a productive meeting. We don't agree with what Teresa's saying. We have documentation of meetings that we had conversations about things. So rather than get into that, what is it that we can do to make this a successful venture for both the town of Wyndham and Raymond? I'm assuming that you're going to need to do due diligence in regards to finances, and I think you're going to find out some information that's going to surprise you, and that doesn't mean that you won't want to pay additional sums of money for the education, but I'm thinking there must be something we can do to cooperate in a way so that you can get data that you need.
No, we're still having the conversation. I know there's a lot of frustration built up because of emails that went back and forth, and probably what got us here. Now we're trying to figure this whole thing out. Whoops. Sorry. Other questions, Mike?
I just was gonna, I don't wanna get into that again, but it just made me, as I sat here in terms of Raymond, is there a communication between the school board and the select board? I mean, is there a yearly?
There's no formal.
So that may be something from our end we need to.
From our end, that may be something we need to do.
Once a year, yeah.
More than that probably.
Or what, yeah. Yes.
Probably get people in front of us and at least have a conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
Because,
just a matter of course, I mean, not just because of this, but just because.
Right, because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Don, one question I have is on this capital expenditure thing. Can you give me a scenario how you think it's going to work? I mean, we know that Jordan Small needs a makeover. I mean, it needs a furnace, a roof, what else? Who knows? A couple $1 million. How does that work? Does it become a local referendum issue in Raymond, and we just take it on at the recommendation of the school committee? I mean, how does that work?
Well, I'm not sure of the logistics of that, but what I would say is that, yes, the intent would be that if the formula was to go through as devised, then each community would be responsible for that. What we've come to learn, as I'm sure you know, is that the school board doesn't have the authority to bond. Only the public has the authority to bond. So they can do things like lease purchase, but when you think of a lease purchase, that's for equipment. And basically the way the banks describe that is if I can come get it, I'll lease purchase it. But if you put it into a roof, I can't come get it. So you have to bond. So I'm not sure what the procedure would be, but I'm assuming that what would happen is the school board would approve the request to have the renovation done, and then it would be a bond that would be attributed to, in the name of the RSU, but attributed to the town of Raymond, vice versa, for work that's going to happen.
So the entire school board makes that recommendation, or is it just the Raymond people on the school board that make that recommendation?
I don't have an answer for that. So we will.
I mean,
that's a very good question.
To me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah, no,
it
I
doesn't
hear you.
make sense. If
Yeah.
you're an RSU,
Yeah.
you're an RSU.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, the response was to try to devise a way that we would still remain as a district and communities could maintain their flavor. So it was a positive intentionality, but I
Right.
hear your question, so we'll get an answer to that.
okay, Steve?
Yeah, Joe, I think what you're describing points out a structural problem.
Right.
I once worked in a very, very, very large school district that covered numerous communities. It was a countywide school system in Florida.
I bet you wish you were there right now.
I will be on March 1st. No, I still, we'll get out on the sleds. The structural problem is this, and by the way, in that very large school district, there was none of these kinds of problems. There was nothing about one town or another, and some of them were very large towns and some of them were very small towns. The problem here is there is no joint taxing authority. Raymond taxes what Raymond taxes, Wyndham taxes what Wyndham taxes. But there is no cooperation in that regard. Now, I don't know if that's possible under Maine law. You're saying, no, it's not possible. Okay. Well, then we're always going to have a problem. Because there's not going to be any way for it not to be Jordan Small is a Raymond school, the middle school is a Wyndham school. And the problem that you're pointing out, Joe, about the thing makes no sense, and I agree with you, it doesn't, is simply going to continue. And that's what's going to also foster this us and them business. So I think what we're faced with here is an unsolvable problem, at least under current Maine law.
I hate to think of it as unsolvable, you know?
Well,
Opportunity.
Yeah, we have an
well,
opportunity.
thank you, Eric. That's a very nice
Yeah.
way to put that.
Yeah. So, other questions from the board? Mike?
I'm just wondering, having heard what you said there, I'm not, if we were talking about fixing the roof on Jordan Small or doing something at Field Allen, I'm not sure we probably would do it, wouldn't we? I think it's the issue of the whole idea of having a new middle school, I think, is where the thrust of this comes from, so.
I think the fear of this new middle school with no state funding and a $40 million building,
Yeah.
all taken on with local debt. First of all, I don't think that will ever pass any straight face test, because when you see what that would do to your taxes, people just wouldn't even vote for it. But I think that fear drove a lot of this.
Well, it's a challenge, because when the state, and you may have been there at the time, but when the state came up with this, it was kind of a forced marriage. So it wasn't like one was courted the other. The law was made and something had to be done.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how forced it was. I mean, a lot of communities said no, and they were probably better off not even going down the road at some point. But there's been a long relationship between Wyndham and Raymond, very long, going back to when I was on the school board in 1989. All right, so this isn't anything new. And so the consolidation pretty much formalized what was a contract situation anyway. And so I'm not sure that this is anything new and earth-shattering. I just don't think it meshed very well like we had hoped it was going to mesh. I think, from my perspective. So, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Diana, you had a comment? Sorry I cut you off, but
No, that's
it was a committee meeting for.
Yeah. I just felt like I needed to introduce myself again, because you actually have your three representatives here. So you have Jen, and I'm Diana. Jerry's here, so I've been on the board for 2 years. I would say I've probably received, probably count on one hand the amount of emails I get. Nobody shows up at meetings, so unless we hear from people, unfortunately, you know, how are we to know that somebody is upset about something? How are we to know? I mean, your job's the same. I'm sure when you get your emails and phone calls, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I gotta dig into this, what's going on?
I don't get
No?
emails or phone calls.
You don't get in? Well, then I feel very lucky that I've gotten three. But, you know, I don't know why people today have no interest in politics. I have no idea. I got into it because I was concerned. I have 2 kids here, and I know some of you have kids in the school system. I moved here 3 or 4 years ago, picked the town on purpose because I liked the small town feel. So I'm puzzled when all this comes up as like a crisis because I've heard nothing.
And usually as an elected person, you won't. Honestly, you don't hear anything. Then you do a community survey like the select board just did, and one of the biggest concerns was the RSU.
Yeah.
The town got all these great reviews, and then the RSU was down here. So you go, well, what's the issue?
I need to speak again though,
Yeah.
because that's not accurate.
No, it's very accurate, and I can
If
show you
you look at the
survey.
demographics of who filled out that survey,
Yeah.
for Raymond, it was 65 plus. So they were people that don't have children in the school.
Well,
So
yeah.
that was kind of an odd,
Well, not everyone was 65 plus.
that was what
the majority
that was the
of people.
demographics. I made sure I read
Was it
our
mayor?
survey and I read the Wyndham survey. And that's the demographics. And that's the people that tend to vote. They have more time. But I found that very odd that it was 65 plus, bad mouthing the RSU, yet they have no children there. So that baffles me.
Well, I'm not sure that's an accurate. It wasn't just people 65 and
I wanna hear
over who
this.
filled out the survey. Go ahead, Liz.
I'm a little over 65. I think you have a point. However, I think anyone over 65 in Raymond certainly has kids in the neighborhood. They're aware of the children and they are concerned about their education to some degree. And to change subjects just a little bit, Jerry and I had a brief discussion not too long ago, and I don't think the people in Raymond blame our 3 representatives for what's happened and with the attitudes that we have here in Raymond at the present time about the RSU. I think you've done a super job. You've done the best you can. As you say, you don't hear feedback like you'd like to. So I don't think it's that. I think it's the entity. I think it's the perception, as he said, about what the RSU is considering Raymond as being other than a cash cow. I think that their first mistake the RSU made, and I've harped on this because it slapped me in the face the first time I met a school board member that came up to talk to me at the town office, and that was the name of the school. And it sounds petty, it sounds small, but maybe the kids that go to school down there feel that they are members of Wyndham High School. But I think the majority of adults in the town of Raymond that pay taxes never could, and I certainly can't understand why the name of the school wasn't changed when it became an RSU. Our Raymond kids are still going to Wyndham High School. They are not going to an entity of an RSU that has its own name and that the kids can feel a part of. I know it's bugged me from the beginning, and it will continue to, and it's certainly no reason to pull out of the RSU in its entirety, but it's certainly a real deal breaker to me as far as my attitude toward the RSU.
And I've never heard that.
Well, I've said it more than I should have.
My high schooler has had nothing but a wonderful experience. Obviously, there are kids that don't. I think some of you got to meet my daughter, Natalie. So, you know, she's not afraid to speak her mind and let you know what she's thinking. What's that?
Was that our luncheon?
Yes. Natalie was mine. And one thing that they really love is going to Wyndham High School. That's, you know, it's a school with a history. And I mean, I work in Portland, and I was sitting there when we were getting ready for drama, and I was like, oh my God, how many drama rehearsals can we have in 1 week? I'm going crazy. And somebody next to me was like, oh, where does your daughter go to school? She goes to Wyndham High School. Oh my gosh, I remember several years ago when they did this production. So I don't know that I would want it to change. I like them going there. It's something that they're proud of, and it's something they get to look forward to being a part of. And I said it at our last meeting, and I'll say it every time we ever get together. This is a grown-up problem, not a kid problem. The kids are doing really, really great. But it's us that hold on to things like titles and
Adults.
yeah.
The adults.
The adults, we hold on to those town lines and those numbers and the lines in the sand, and kids are happy.
Yeah. Okay, just I piggyback. I knocked on doors all year trying to get reelected, and I heard that a lot. I heard a lot of people say they were happy. That they actually liked local control, but gosh, my kids are in Wyndham and they're doing pretty well now, and I don't want to mess with that. I want to kind of flip around what you're saying. I don't know if you know this. I'm on the education committee in Augusta. 5 years I've been on the education committee now, and it's floored me that I haven't heard. And I've got now 3 towns, and it's floored me. I've never really heard from anybody about. And I mean, I've been involved with starting charter schools, the teacher evaluations, the testing. Some pretty major stuff's happened in the last 4 years. And Sandy and I talk periodically. He responds. And I could probably pick 10 people in the room that tell you I communicate too much. Right? I communicate too much. So it kind of floors me. I have never heard anybody say, Mike, we like that bill. We don't like that bill. And I don't say that to be mean. You have a resource, and I talk all the time to people. So you might want to get my email, and yes.
I kind of want to go off that, because I think one of the things that I personally struggle with is that when you talk about the survey, if something comes in my mail that's not a Christmas card or a bill, it's thrown away immediately because I figure it's junk. I mean, truly. And it might be worth it. Probably it's outside the scope of this committee, but figuring out how we can better communicate. Like I get your email, so I actually know what you're doing.
And I have an education one that has about 20, has people from Poland, Casco, Wyndham, and Raymond. And I hear from you, and I hear from you, Don, once in a while, and Crockett.
But I remember when we first...
He actually asks me good questions. He nails me sometimes.
That means that Sandy doesn't?
Yeah. No, Sandy says thank you. You don't have to answer that.
But it's worth considering, you know, when we first moved here, I remember asking, you know, when I went to register to vote or do something, or I remember asking, you know, is there a town listserv? Like, how do I find out what's going on? And at that time, there wasn't. I don't even know if there is now. So just, that might be a way to think about how this group communicates, but also how various entities communicate, is to think possibly maybe broader in scope than what has been done in the past, just to help get the information out there.
Okay, it's almost 10 minutes to 8. Okay.
Joe, can I just say a final word? I just want people to know that I know you're really struggling with good questions, and we appreciate that. And I want you to also know that this is a partnership. And for people, as a superintendent, this is really important to me. I really want this consolidation to stay together, but I also will respect the outcome. And you know, if you did separate, you've got 2 wonderful buildings with great teachers, very little turnover. So I don't think educationally you will be harmed at all. But I also, on the other side of my mouth, we put so much work into this. We really believe that some good things are happening with consolidation. And if there's anything that I can do to help Raymond make it even better, so that we can stay together, please communicate to me, and I will listen and do my best to make it better. So, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other public comment back there? Jerry? No?
Okay, just one last thing. Okay, this is back to something Teresa said. The protocol of sending things to whomever, if it's on a particular, like I know I've set it up for, you know, that we communicate through just Dawn or certain things. But to be perfectly honest with you, and the board can agree with me on this one, we take phone calls, emails from anybody and everybody. So there is no thing of that, you know, it has to come to the chair. If you have, yeah, because we're all on there, everybody's there.
One clarification, Merch, too. You had put in the paper about the 4-panel person, as far as not putting a window person on there.
All right, yep, you mean,
We put all Raymond because it was state
well, you have
law.
to by state law.
Yes, and that's why I think that may have just been a misquote in the newspaper.
Well, he didn't put all my, yeah, and anyway, sometimes he doesn't pick up the whole.
A misquote in the paper?
No, I know.
I thought that's what it possibly was, but I just want you to understand for that 4
Yeah,
panel, it
I
has
know.
to stay, okay.
Accurate journalism.
Well, as the chair, I thank you for coming tonight. I think it answered a lot of questions. I hope you got a feel for a lot of our concerns, and I think this is very helpful to me, and I think to everybody. And, you know, like you, Sandy, I don't want to see this consolidation fall apart. I voted against it as a selectman. My kids went to Wyndham Middle School because Jordan Small was shut down at the time, and they went to Wyndham High School, and you know, it's been a long time that these two communities have stayed together. I want it to work, but it has to be fair and equal. So this petition brought it to the forefront. We have to deal with it, and that's what we're doing here. And I think if we keep lines of communication open, look at everything in front of us, I think we're gonna come out ahead, and you know, whatever the decision by the towns are, will be what the decisions are, and we'll move forward. So, but thank you so much for coming here tonight. It was very helpful.
Don, thank you very much.
Any questions, give me an email.
Thank you.
Or call.
Thank you, Don.
If you looked at our agenda, we were gonna break up into subcommittees.
Yep.
Okay, and stupid me forgot my laptop at home. But anyway, Caitlin, do you have a breakdown of those subcommittees, and we'll need volunteers to which committee you want to serve on?
Actually, let's see Jamie Cummings and who else?
Dave Cowens,
Frank Snyder.
Frank
Is it
McDermott.
Heather Keane? Is that the other one?
Oh, that's right.
Frank, facilities.
Frank McDermott's gonna be working, like giving us advice as far as from Arizona, like
Charlie Miller.
and Charlie Miller from Florida.
We're not paying for
They
that.
used to be superintendents and principals, so they can kind of give us a perspective of, okay, do we need a full-time superintendent? Do we need like a part-time and a principal? And I'm like, wow. So they're watching. I know Frank is from Arizona. Don't know about Charlie, but they're on the email list, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
So the elements that I have here, educational services for Raymond students within RSU, effective date, school construction reliant upon state funds, transportation services, new administrative unit, distribution of financial commitments from bonds. This is the work that Jen sent around, that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Right.
Okay. Continuation and assignment of collective bargaining agreements, continuation of contract rights, disposition of real and personal property, new administration and governance.
Right.
That's really, I'll just.
That's a lot of committees.
Yeah, it's really just an inventory. What I was just trying to come up with a structure
It's
to
like
how to
one
start
per.
to work. This comes straight from the statute in terms of what we have
What-
to
the
address in
14th,
agreements.
yeah.
So some of these
Yeah.
would require a whole work group.
Is
and
that in
it
our
needs to be
files
consolidated.
in Google
Yeah.
Docs?
It is.
As far as effective date, if there was a separation, it would not happen until July of 2016.
Because we'd have to have it in
At the
for the
earliest,
vote
at
by
the
June.
earliest, at the
Yeah.
earliest. Probably 17. Because we're extending
Well,
out our
that's if we met the June
80 days.
deadline, but now we have until
Right.
September.
Yeah.
Right. Right. We asked for that 6-month extension, which we received. So that brings us to July.
September.
I think September.
Till
Oh,
September.
September,
To
right.
September.
So then it would not be till 17 at the earliest.
17.
If we took
If
until
we took that.
September.
Yeah,
Yeah. That would depend
To
on
get
how
onto
much
the November ballot, we need to be in by June.
right. Where do people want to proceed from here? There was a lot of information that came out tonight. I don't know, people feel a little more comfortable, people feel I need more information. Caitlin?
It seems to me that since we now have until September, it might be worth our while to put a lot of, or put energy and focus into that March vote and trying to get turnout from Raymond people, or Raymond people who we know will vote the way we hope that they will, to that meeting. And that could take us a long way to getting to closer where we want to be. For where we would want to be.
Okay, but in the meantime, we still need to work as this committee moving forward.
Oh, two things can maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Other suggestions?
I think either way, we're going to be looking at some renovations at Jordan Small School. Maybe we could start that committee up now and let it go through what it needs to go through.
I don't know, we've got a pretty good idea based on
Their suggestions.
Their suggestions, what, and if the, is the RSU engineer who did it?
That's why I think we need to take a look at that particular part of it.
I think it was it Barry Keckett? No.
I
it's
mean,
the
remember,
architect, sorry.
the selectmen also had that looked at.
Oh, okay.
Because there was talk a while ago of splitting that school in half with a new town hall and moving the library up there.
Right.
Yeah.
And half of it stays as the middle school because capacity-wise,
It's underutilized,
it's
yeah.
underutilized.
Yeah.
And I just remember it needs a new furnace and a new roof. I remember that distinctly. And what other recommendations there were, I
Well,
don't remember.
having taught there, Joe,
Yeah.
I will testify it also needs windows and insulation.
Okay, yeah.
That's exactly what it says.
What?
That's exactly what it says.
No, I know. No, I know.
Joe,
But
the
Wasn't
roof,
air
is that the
quality also
roof
a
on the gym
problem?
or the roof on the building?
I think they should
Oh,
fix that.
I think that was fixed.
Because
Yeah.
remember, the gym is the
Yeah.
town's
Right.
anyway.
Right,
So
the
that-
town owns the
So
gym.
that really falls under, it would fall under a slightly different
Right.
scenario.
That was always a question too, of how that would ever play out with the gym being the town's.
Well,
If anything happened to the
there was
building.
a separate vote on that gym by the town.
Well, based on what we were talking about tonight, the whole school belongs to the town.
The whole what?
The school, the whole property belongs to the town.
Well, it will
Right
if
there
you
first,
separate.
Yeah.
It has, right now, the RSU owns it, except for the
Yeah.
gym. They don't own
Yeah.
the gym.
But the town would decide what repairs went into the school and how to fund it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have the ownership of repairs
Well,
and maintenance.
I think they need to get some answers on how that works.
And that's only if the cost sharing passes, right?
Right.
So that new
So if that cost sharing passes, would we put together like a committee that says, okay, this is what we want to do for Jordan Small, take it to the school board, and once they get that all figured out, and then bring it back to the town for a town vote?
Don't know. I mean, he's
They
gonna
don't
get
know.
answers.
It seems like
The
it's
first
out
time I
of
found
the purview
something
of
Joe
our
doesn't
that are
know.
here.
Yeah, that's not
what
part
we're
of our,
charged to do.
right. And
Well, I was gonna say, because using Jordan Small is one of them, and I guess clarification is, my kids were in Wyndham. I like the schools. I don't like the idea of a new middle school. I don't like the idea of cost sharing. So if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. I mean, but I think something had to be forced to get to this point to get some changes done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're having a discussion, and that's always good, I think. You know?
This idea of you take care of yours and you take care of it just seems to me it defeats the whole purpose
It's not the consolidation.
of being consolidated.
I think they were trying to respond to Raymond residents, though. I mean,
Yeah.
they did that exactly because people were so frustrated about having to pay for Wyndham, and so they were
Yeah.
trying actually to
Yeah,
appease
no, I
us.
understand that. And consolidation was all about cost savings, right? I mean, really, right?
Well, but a new middle school
work,
is so much
but-
more than like $2 million for a roof at Jordan Small. And once again, use the buildings and then see what you need for a school. And I still think it lies at the school board to the point of making a decision as to where the direction. It's kind of like us doing that survey to see where the direction of the town is, the selectmen. See where the direction the town wants to go. And it's kind of the same thing where with the school board, they need to set a direction, is how I feel.
I guess going back to your question and what do we do next, the thing I keep thinking, as I knocked on doors and I heard people all summer talking about this, I'm a local control guy, to be honest with you. I think I voted against consolidation. I don't remember, to be honest with you, but I think I did. And yet, I think, like I said, a lot of people are pretty comfortable just because their kids are there now. So the thing that when you say what can we do, there's all these tasky things. I think even people that maybe want to split, when they see what it's going to cost. I mean, I think that's what we need to do is draw the picture. What is it going to cost to be a superintendent and to be a special ed director and to be an athletic director and all that and then
People
see,
want numbers.
Yeah, see what people's tolerance are for that.
That's what these tasks are. So we're on,
Yeah.
I mean, we're on the step 8 where we
Yeah.
have, we
You have to
actually
draw a
have to
picture.
come up with a withdrawal agreement.
Yeah.
We have to do that work. And part, I think, through our research and what we find, we'll find information to package for the public.
And I mean, my assumption right now is that's our task is not to because I try to listen to the room and how people and I would say some people, boy, that person really wants to split and that person wants to stay. But can I assume correctly our job right now is to paint a picture, and then the four of
Educate the
you
town.
will eventually be charged with a recommendation. All right. Okay.
I think you're right, Mike. I think there is a taxpayer dollar tolerance number out there that we're gonna probably go over or
Yeah.
see where it is.
Who wants to serve on the finance end of this thing? Looking strictly at finances, what it would cost, Ralph? Okay.
I can jump in with Rolf.
Paul? Good. Marshall? Good. Anybody else?
I'll do it. I can help pull some numbers together with you
Okay.
guys and give it to you. You guys just do the adding, subtracting. and I'll see what I can find.
So Rolf, Marshall, Paul, and
Right there.
Teresa are gonna start looking at numbers. Because that's gonna be
Yeah.
the biggest
That's a good
question,
question.
is how much is it gonna cost the town of Raymond to go off on its own?
Yep.
And at what benefit?
Right.
I can tell you in Augusta, for all our philosophies and core values and stuff, when you're on the education committee, when they start passing out the spreadsheets, here's how it's going to affect your town.
Right.
Everybody looks at their town to
Yeah,
see.
of course.
That's which is the way it is.
Yeah. How much GPA am I getting?
Yeah.
And that's what you look at.
Yeah. It's too bad, but it's the reality.
It is the reality.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the other side of it may be more costly, but whoever said it earlier is right. We've got two wonderful little schools here.
They said it, actually.
These are great schools. Great faculty. And the kids who attend here get a terrific education. So whether we consolidate or we don't consolidate, that's not going to change.
I want to share, it was actually your daughter though, when the school board were invited to the student council at Wyndham High School, and we had people that came, and there were lots of freshmen, so we're excited. We kind of asked, how does it feel to integrate and come together, and they were really open and honest. We asked, how would it feel, and they said, well, it's strange at first because, Wyndham folks know Wyndham folks and Raymond knows Raymond folks, but it was starting to integrate. And we said, how would you feel if we dissolved as an RSU? And she said, I would feel instead of going to our school, that I'd be going to their school. And I thought that was really, again, as the parents person, I thought that was a really important point from the kids' perspective there. So, worth sharing.
The only other hot button issue that I can see on that list is the bargaining units and when their contracts expire. We may want to take a look at that. Not that we're going to get involved in the negotiations, but at least when is that?
Yeah.
What is the timing on those contracts?
We have a couple of teachers from what I understand. I think one's retiring this year, and I think one's looking at next year too, and looking at the numbers. I do know next year, kindergarten or first grade, I think it's, they're knocking down a class.
I think it's first grade. Kindergarten went down to 2 this year.
Yeah, so I think first grade is going down
Yeah.
from 3 to 2, is what somebody just told me. So that's looking at.
Well, when you look at the demographics of the kids here, I mean, we're dropping in Raymond.
Yeah, it was 21% for the last couple of years, each year.
Right, come on, guys.
Come on, yeah. I'm not of that age anymore.
Well, I'm literally thinking I got 3 going this year, and then next year I got 3 from the daycare, so I know that. They're still going. Come on, Caitlin, hurry up.
Yeah. All right.
What else you got, Mike?
I'm trying to, what about facilities? Should we have a facilities committee?
I'm having a hard time understanding what the difference is between the finances and all these little, because they all.
I think that's
Everything
They all
ties
get
into
the
the
finance, so it's
finances.
almost like, is the facilities pulling together the research for the finance team? Is that how we should think about it?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with that too. I mean, finance really will cover each one of these bullets and more.
Right.
I think
pieces, but
my approach, and I'm not sure speaking for Ralph, but we have history. We have budget histories. And we can take a look at that and say, hey folks, this is where we were.
We have all of them to see that we can pull out what
Well, the
Raymond
last-
pays now.
Well, the
last one
last
on the
Raymond
internet
budget
is-
was 2008.
Right, and that's still on the internet on the
Right.
Budget Finance Committee. And that was a lot more than money than it is now. But
Well,
Yeah, well, the RSU budget is still broken down by school.
They are. They have the numbers on it
Right.
because I called and
yeah,
asked.
the budget's
Zero, zero,
all-
5, 1 or whatever,
That is
so
there. It's just-
we
it's
can
just
just pull
pulling
those
it out
numbers
there
and plug
putting
them.
dumping it into a different format, so.
And then you're gonna try and extrapolate number of students and inflation factors and all that stuff
Well,
into,
that's easy stuff.
yeah.
So while you guys are doing that, which is my nightmare, I want nothing to do with the number part of it. I want to
hiding
know.
behind these guys.
I want to know. I want to be involved, and I want to know how this is going to impact the kids. What's the best choice for them? What do we have? What are we looking at? That. Give me a committee I can be on that I can
educational
say.
service, I would say, I feel like we should have a group that's looking at educational
Fantastic.
services, making sure that we would.
Yeah, I mean, we
continue
talked
the same
about,
rate.
scholastic opportunity up there. What does Wyndham offer that Raymond may possibly not be able to offer, at a middle school level?
Yep.
It's, because and then where are we gonna contract with a high school?
Yeah. Well, and that would be a committee that would have to go and sit down and talk to the other schools.
Yeah, I think that's a committee you need to have is the, called the outsourcing or the
The
tuitioning
tenure
or whatever,
contract.
because that really becomes part and parcel. If we separate, then you've got to have something in place on either a contract school or is it going to be all just choice? And then if it is just choice,
Well, you
then-
must have a contract school.
You do.
Okay, but what's the capacity at other schools to take in things like that? So I mean, that's got to be a committee to look at that aspect of it.
How long do you think it will take to pull together a finance report?
I mean, if we sat, the four of us just sat down like at a table and just started putting numbers down and pulling stuff together, do you know what I mean, without everybody else.
I think we could come up with a pretty wide, circle in a reasonable amount of time, couple weeks. I've got my hands full now for 10 days, but after that, I'm fine.
So if we started with the finance piece, just finance, and meet again in 2 weeks, and then,
2 weeks
You
is
okay
gonna be
with
hard.
that,
Beginning of February is gonna be really
Well, I
tough
just
for
wanna
me.
look at something.
Yeah, I did.
or 3 weeks even.
'Cause
Yeah, 3 weeks doesn't work for me.
Can you guys do 3 weeks?
'cause we've got,
3 weeks is the holiday.
3 weeks is,
President's Day.
President's Day.
okay,
Is it really?
February
weeks.
vacation.
Yeah, really.
23rd.
Yeah, so
February
16th.
Yeah, it's the very first.
So the week of the 16th is February vacation, is that what it is?
It is.
And that following week.
So I'll
we got-
probably be
we
ready to
got-
get out of my
we
house
got
then.
the budget meeting that following week,
So the 23rd?
yeah. 23rd, we've got a budget meeting.
That's,
Oh.
But you can't have this room.
So does the week of the 9th work?
March 9th?
Yeah.
I'm away, but that's.
I'm away as well.
are we really?
But I don't
gonna
wait
do
this
that
time,
one?
starts-
No, I'm talking February
Oh,
9th.
February 9th.
Oh, February 9th.
February.
That's
February
fine.
9th works.
But your question is, can they have a budget?
Can they have something?
Can you have some financial numbers ready by the week of the 9th of February?
Probably, but I'm tied up tonight.
Well,
He's not saying the 9th, he's just saying for
I'm
that
saying the
week.
week, that week. We got a selectmen meeting
Okay.
on the 10th.
Nobody,
The 11th is the
Yes.
cost sharing public
yes,
hearing.
nobody,
Right.
yeah, that's, everybody needs to
So-
go that.
So what about the 12th?
May 12th.
February 12th?
I can do it.
Lincoln's birthday, we could have a celebration.
Yes.
We're still
Appreciate
fighting.
it.
6:30 again?
Oh, Dominic,
The 12th?
I'm looking at it, it looks clear on mine.
Awesome.
6:30 again, John?
Yeah. Does that work? 6:30 work for everybody?
Fine. Good for me.
so does
So-
the finance wanna get together then, just the four of
So
us?
Paul, Teresa, Marshall, and Rolf, you guys need to figure out when you can get together and. work
Because we're
with
all
numbers.
getting together on the 12th.
We're all, yes, our next committee meeting will be on the 12th.
The morning of the 12th would be good
Clear
for me.
online, please.
The morning of the 12th to put it together?
Perfect.
What was
Wait a minute,
that?
let me see how many kids I have at daycare that day. It's a Thursday. Marshall thinks we can put together the morning of the 12th, we'll give it to you.
Works for me.
And that's what a committee you want to put together, right?
That's famous
Right.
last words there.
What we'll find is that you'll have holes that then will drive what questions we
Right.
need to pull
Exactly, yes.
together. So
Say,
that-
well, wait a minute, we
that's
gotta
good
add this, we
place
can
to
take this out, yes.
Yeah.
Caitlin, do you have the current budget, their current budget Excel sheets on, or
I
can
think I
we
gave
get
you the
those
current one.
and dump those up
Did I?
there?
Maybe.
I mean, I think it's on the, on
I-
their
I have-
site.
It's on their site, but I have like the last, I have
the
like 5.
RSU 5-year, is that the right one?
There's like 5 years, 5 years.
Yeah, RSU, fiscal year 14, board of directors budget, version 7.
But we don't have 15,
I
16.
still haven't been told I don't
That's
have.
because they haven't got it done yet.
That's why we don't have it.
So that's
But I mean,
all.
Just testing
if we
them
take that, if we take the fourth, if we take the existing, the
14,
14,
15.
the 14, 15,
Oh, you work at Martin's.
Yeah, it gives you a
Skeleton
place
screw
to,
it.
then we have
Part
a
of
starting
those,
point.
yeah.
And
we know.
Cynthia Keeney has sent me which is the Jordan Small, which are the Raymond numbers that we
Yeah,
can.
'cause it's built-
I do member services for the.
'cause I think if
Job
all the,
plan.
if all the
So it's
support sheets
outside
are
of the scope of this
behind
Yeah,
that,
we-
it breaks it out by school.
If there's not, that's something we can call Randy Crockett on too and say if we're missing anything.
Well, I know they've got it, because I've seen it someplace
Okay, hang
before.
on, we're all talking at once here.
Good.
Yes, Paul.
How much information do we have on adult ed
No, I didn't bring them
in terms of this split up?
Their total amount,
Okay, yeah, it's right.
I think there's a
78
total
pages.
number there for
Well,
adult ed.
Right.
But that's not the
split
Excel, is that Excel or that's?
I mean, when we
No,
start
it's the
thinking
Adobe.
about
Someplace there's an
our
Excel
costs
document that
for
has the
adult
budget
ed,
with
where do we?
We don't have an
by
adult ed program in
things like
Raymond.
that.
We've always
That
piggybacked
rolls
off
back.
Wyndham's.
That all rolls in.
So,
That's a
so,
question then.
so if they run an adult ed program there and we split, it would only be, the cost to Raymond would only be to, how much does it cost to attend one of their classes?
For non-residents.
For a non-resident, which is how it was done in the past.
And that would not be a town cost.
No.
That would be an individual cost.
Individual
cost. Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, so, any other questions? I think trying to pull these financial numbers together will help us all get a much better picture.
Do we have to televise us putting that together so we can not have to worry so much about getting this one, or would you rather do?
No, I think we need to televise all these meetings.
No, okay, I was gonna say as far as getting all
No,
the
she means,
finance
she
people.
means.
Oh,
Just
no,
us.
no, your subcommittee, no, that's a
Okay, good,
subcommittee.
all right.
Caitlin
Well, we do
is
re-
making a point about how do we publicize that February 11th meeting to make sure we get Raymond residents there, even though it's not the vote, because the vote's not until the 18th.
So we need both.
But I'm gonna be away on March 18th, I think, so.
Yeah,
This is
me
Joe's
too.
vote, this is my vote.
So, but yeah, I think this committee can be responsible for trying to publicize that somehow. Can you put it on our Facebook page?
I can, but I think it's worth thinking, like putting together a subcommittee for that and actually doing some, because the Facebook page,
Doesn't get many hits.
there's more we can, there's a lot more we can do just
Yeah.
if we, I think, came up with a plan around it.
Should go on the town website.
It should
On
go
the
on the
town
Town
website.
of Raymond website.
But you know, I'm sure some people here have, voter files with phone numbers in them, and I'd be happy to sit in there and make phone calls to make sure.
Don't get it from him. They're not all that accurate. I know a lot of them
They're not
work.
great, but I-
Yeah, they're
I'm just saying that there might, that, I think,
What party are you in now?
if we are serious with this.
Can you scroll information on the bottom
If
of
we are
broadcast?
serious about really why they're
Getting
having,
Raymond, yeah.
then I think there's a lot more we can do than just post it.
If we replace it, we can, but we don't have
Yeah,
anyone.
because I was gonna say, if you could, that'd be the perfect thing during, when on all the replays, you just scroll.
See?
Scroll.
It's not the reason I got, I
On the
mentioned that.
replays, I probably could, just not during the
So does
live.
anybody want to do it
Oh.
with me?
Yeah, it'd take a little bit more effort, but I think.
Yeah, but I mean, that'd be one way if he could, if during.
Yeah, don't we
on
have a
replays.
Put it on the
screenshot that you can
put it on
put
the
up
crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A Chiron?
Either one of those.
Poster, just stick
So I
it
can
in.
yeah.
put that up as an image, I mean.
But not this, but February
Yeah,
11th as far
February
as,
11th.
yes, all the details, cost sharing. Raymond needs to get out and
Send it out
vote.
as an email to Danielle, just because she usually.
Just type it up, yeah.
Stuff on.
there?
You want Caitlin to put something together?
Yeah, Caitlin, put something together.
And it can be a Chiron on like everything, or what?
Whatever you guys want, we'll try to do it.
Okay.
And send it to Danielle,
Danielle, Lauren.
Danielle Lauren. And she'll get it on the website. Other concerns, questions?
I was thinking, do we want that to be an actual subcommittee, and does anybody want to work with me on it?
I'll work with it.
Thank you,
I'll
Mike.
work with it.
There you go.
Who else?
Right, great.
Perfect.
You got volunteers.
I'll put them around.
Perfect. You're signed up.
So is that a communications?
We should have food at our meetings.
Communications
Communications.
committee.
Perfect. Yep. Diana, you have anything to
I'm
add?
kinda chatty, put me
No,
down on that.
I was just thinking, I clicked around on too many websites today, but I'm almost positive it's on our Raymond website.
Town of Raymond?
Yes.
I'm sure.
Oh, you know what, I did
Check
see it.
for me, I'm almost
Yep.
You did
positive
see
I
it?
saw it on our site already.
The February 11th meeting?
It is.
Both.
Oh, both of them, okay.
And John does a little
It is.
infomercial
Got it.
to explain.
It's over on the left-hand side.
So it's- I'm pretty sure that was already there.
Joe should be without saying that, most of
Yeah.
us should try to get there.
February 11th cost sharing,
Yeah.
it's a little lower, so you have to scroll down this.
What time was it?
It says 6:30 on here.
But as
Where is it?
as
The
these
high
start to
school.
go
Oh, perfect.
away, like you can take away the deadline for the dog thing and move them up is what it is. Danielle can do. Like there's an ad for Public Works, the storm prevention, all this other stuff you can move up. These are all January things.
Yeah, I think we need a little bigger.
But putting that on TV too, and like I said, I put it on Facebook and I just kept saying, people get out, and this is what it means. It means that we don't have to pay for middle school and our taxes go lower. I mean, people are sharing it.
Also the
One of these around
Eagle,
town.
should be an Eagle.
Just
Yeah, Wyndham Eagle.
Wyndham Eagle.
I'll go down and ask the gun shop guy to put it on there.
Oh,
He seems to get a lot of attention.
Oh my
He's
God.
a really nice guy.
Oh, no, we'll shoot all of you.
Everybody says
Yeah.
that.
I know, but I think that's
Anything else?
He actually is.
If not,
That, to ever go
I'll,
find out
stay in your shelters tonight and tomorrow, and you can come out of hibernation on Wednesday night.
Some people may not get out February 11th.
Okay, remember, February 11th, anybody watching, big vote in Wyndham, big
No,
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Public hearing and discussion.
And
The
February
vote
12th?
is March 18th.
And February 12th, we meet again.
February 12th, we'll be here again.
That's very timely, actually.
And hopefully,
Timely,
Yeah.
so we can get a better sense of what the
what the
community,
community, right.
we all feel as a whole, and then we can
Yeah.
reevaluate again.
Yeah, I hope to
plan
be
that.
there. Yep. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.